Hi, hello everyone. Dawn Epting here. Thank you guys so much as always for watching. Today I wanted to come and discuss a new version of you in 2022. Really a new version of you today. And hopefully at the end of watching this video, we'll be reminded that we can change things in terms of the desires that are in our hearts that we're experiencing right now. So I wrote down some notes and I'm going to get right into what I want to discuss. There are three reasons or three ways to create that new version of ourselves that we desire. And that version of ourselves can be if we want to become a business owner or to experience a great relationship or to improve a health issue or to have more meaningful um, and deep and meaningful friendships. So the first thing I wrote here is we need to intentionally define what we want our lives to look like. Number one, intentionally define that. And that may be, often it's effective to write it down or to sit somewhere and get really clear on how we want our lives to look. And the whole premise of this video is really too often we define ourselves based on the past version of ourselves. You know, we say that we want to experience new things, like I said, whether it's in relationships or business or finances or health, but we're still defining ourselves by that outdated past version of who we used to be. So, number one, we have to intentionally define what we want our lives to look like. And there are so many people that are impacting a lot of people that had to do this. I wrote some names down that just immediately popped into my head. That was Tony Robbins. I read somewhere that he, experienced abuse growing up. So he had to define what he wanted his life to look like in order to become that motivational speaker and author that is world renowned today. Aaron Dottie, I listen to his videos at times on YouTube, and he often shares the story about how from, I believe it was like 7 until 15 years old, somewhere in that range, his dad remarried and he had an abusive ex-stepmom, and him and his brother had to do all these chores. Often they weren't allowed to come in the house. I would assume this was like when they were out of school in summer months. But they weren't allowed to come inside. They were given a bowl of cereal for breakfast, a TV dinner at night. They were extremely malnourished. He experienced a lot of abuse during those years. But in order to become a professional YouTuber with millions of subscribers, at some point he had to intentionally define what he wanted his life to look like going forward and not identify with that past version of who he used to be. Maya Angelou, we know that she experienced, sexual abuse growing up. I wrote here from scriptures the Apostle Paul, or Saul, that went on to be the Apostle Paul. We know that according to scriptures, how he had, persecuted all of these, Christians and had them put in jail, and he was, assisting with that. But in order to go on and write most of the New Testament, he had to define who he wanted to be going forward, or else he would have never felt worthy enough to be that preacher and to write most of the New Testament. And David, of course, we see in scriptures that he was rejected or not esteemed, maybe is the better phrase, by his dad. He was eventually anointed out of all of his brothers to be king. And he, had to have that image in order to eventually step into the place of being king. Now, as I was writing that, I was thinking about I wonder if he would have had the image earlier, because we see in scriptures a number of years he was still serving Saul, um, and it took a while before David ascended to the throne. Um, I wonder if, the ascending to the throne would have happened earlier if he had that vivid image of being king. But nonetheless, you know, that's, we'll never know for certain, I guess. But we have to, number one, intentionally define what we want our lives to look like. Number two, I wrote, leave behind the past version of ourselves that others have created, that we have created, or that we may perpetually be recreating. So we have to leave behind the past version of ourselves that others have created, we have created, or that we may be perpetually recreating. So often in life, and I know a lot of people that do this, and I've done this in life, we want to move forward, but we're looking back. There's a scripture in Philippians 3:13. It admonishes us to forget those things which are behind and reach forward to those things which are before. And this is really important because we cannot effectively move forward into the dreams and everything that has been placed in our hearts if we're still looking behind us. And when I say looking behind, we're looking at who we once were defined as by other people. We're thinking about it, we're talking about it, we're feeling the emotions of it. We have to let those things go. We have to let them go in order to seize our dreams and experience those things that we desire to experience. We have to let go of the past version of ourselves that people have told us that we are not good enough, we're not smart, we're not pretty enough, not handsome enough, not talented enough, not educated enough. We have to stop thinking those thoughts. We have to stop speaking those words and feeling the negative emotions of those thoughts. So we have to let go of past versions of ourselves that people have created. We have to let go of past versions of ourselves that we have created. And often the past versions of ourselves that we have created are a direct result of the past version of ourselves that people have created, that now we have allowed to infiltrate our own thinking. So now we are thinking that that is who we are, when that is who we may have been, and that was part of our journey. That's okay. We don't need to judge that. That was how we got to what we desire now, or who we are today. But we don't have to define ourselves by that past version of ourselves that other people have created, or that we have created. Because if we do, we keep creating the experiences of our past in our present. We keep creating the experiences of our past in our present. There is no past, there is no future, there is only now. Every time we experience something, it is in our now. I heard a speaker once say that the past exists in our memory, the future exists in our anticipation, and the present exists in our awareness or experience. Anything that we have ever experienced has always been in the present. So we don't have to constrain ourselves by negative past memories, and keep recreating, the condemning thoughts or fear-based thoughts or uncomfortable thoughts and emotions from past memories. And we don't have to either, constrain ourselves by fearful thoughts of our future, and create experiences in our present based on thoughts and emotions, fear-based thoughts and emotions of what the future may hold. Every moment is a now moment. We have a moment to experience thoughts of peace, comfort, love, gratitude, joy right now, and experience those emotions and create positive experiences in our now. I'm going to talk about that more in days to come because it's a very rich topic that I think that we can really dig into in terms of creating experiences in the now and the power of the present moment. So anyway, number 2, we can leave behind the past version of ourselves that others have created, that we have created, or that we are perpetually recreating, especially if that past version is a negative past version. And number three, we can create the version of ourselves that we would currently like to experience. No, that was number 1. We intentionally define ourselves. I'm sorry. Number 3 is we find our tribe. We find our tribe. We find like-minded individuals who can reinforce the image we harbor of ourselves. We find our tribe or like-minded individuals who can reinforce that new image once we first intentionally define what we wanted our lives to look like. That's number 1. Then we leave the past version, the negative past version of ourselves behind. Number 3, we find like-minded individuals who can reinforce that version of ourselves, who may have that version, that image of themselves, and who are going in the same direction as us. We've often done this whether we're aware of it, even if the image of ourselves is negative. We found people, we've kind of attracted people into our lives who reinforce that negative image of who we were or we believe we are. So we can do it in a positive way by finding people who will reinforce the new image that we've defined. We find that tribe or we create that tribe. Also, those people are out there, or we create experiences and relationships with people who will reinforce that image that we have and who will not, I know you guys have probably heard of, stories where people are like, oh, I remember you. We used to, smoke this together or that together. I've heard people share those stories. Those are people that are still identifying with the past version of you. And then you have people, that you may meet that are just like, oh yeah, I'm writing a book as well, or I'm opening a business too. And those are people who are identifying with that present version of you, that future version, or that present, even better, version of you that you have and you're harboring in your thoughts and in your emotions right now in this present moment. And I wrote here, there are literally countless numbers of people out there who will applaud you and who believe you're worthy. Of course, you don't need that, because when you know that within, we can validate ourselves. We can validate ourselves. We can know we're worthy, even if no one ever knows. But what I am talking about here is that we have a way of attracting like-minded people into our experiences. Even if we have validated ourselves and we don't need that validation or external applause. As we begin to identify who we, now are and feel valuable and worthy on the inside, it's just effortless that we will, come into contact with people on the outside that kind of reflect that back to us. Because as it's often been said, that external or outside is merely a reflection of the internal. What is going on in our hearts, in our subconscious minds, what we believe to be true about ourselves. So we can become a new version of ourselves, not just in 2022, but today. Number one, by intentionally defining what we want our lives to look like. Leaving behind, number two, leaving behind the past versions of ourselves that others have created, that we have created or willingly accepted based on what other people have said, and that we are constantly recreating by dwelling on the thoughts and memories and painful emotions of our past. And number three, we can find our tribe of like-minded individuals who will reflect back to us that sense of worth that we've created on the inside of ourselves. So, as always, grab my book, Never Doubt Your Value. It's available on Amazon. You have the information below. If you haven't read it, or even just to preview it on Amazon, feel free to do that. Share your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, it does help other people when you comment. And feel free to share this video, and feel free to look below the video to get involved in what we're doing. Hit the like button, or the subscribe button rather, if you'd like to subscribe, and the bell to receive notification for future videos. I am coming to you guys every week, and I'll see you guys next week. Have an awesome one. Bye-bye.